This is the Breakfast Leadership Podcast. Boundaries or burnout, you make the choice. Here's your host, Michael Levitt.
Welcome back. I've got Tracy McCubbin on the line. Tracy, how are you?
I'm good, Michael. How are you?
I am great. You have a brand new book out called Making Space Clutter-Free, the last book on decluttering you will ever need. That is great. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
And what, and we talked in the pre-show a little bit about, my passion about, decluttering and all of that, but what prompted you to write the book?
So I have been a professional declutterer for 12 years. I own a company called Declutterfly that's based in Los Angeles, California. And I sort of fell into the business. I was working as a personal assistant and I started getting calls. When you're a personal assistant, you can do everything. So I get these calls and I was helping people move or sort through their stuff. And I just really found I had a knack for it. So I thought, maybe this is a business. So I made a little website and I hung a little sign out, and 12 years and 2,000 clients later, it's a very, very successful business. But what happened was in the early days, I saw that people, would call me and they wanted to get, they had too much stuff and they wanted to get rid of it, but they kept coming up with all these excuses why they couldn't. Well, I paid good money for it, or my grandmother gave it to me, or maybe I'm going to lose the weight and fit into those pants again. And what I realized is that these excuses were actually blocks. They were blocking them from becoming successful. They were blocking them from creating the home that they wanted to live in. I believe that our home is a tool ultimately, and it's a tool to help us go out in the world and be successful, or to come home and rest and nourish. And if your home is cluttered, there's no way you're going to be productive. It's just wears on you. So out of the work I did with my clients, I realized that these excuses were blocks, 7 of them, and I call them the 7 emotional clutter blocks. So the book highlights all of these blocks and then gives you a fantastic plan to work through them.
No, it's great. And I think one of the things for me, and this goes back to when I was a child, my aunts and uncles loved when I'd come over and visit and play with my cousins, because before we would start playing, I would straighten up their room and put everything away, and then we would start playing with toys.
That's great.
I didn't want to dig through dirty underwear and clothes and random stuff, all of this stuff. So they asked my parents, it's like, what are you doing with this kid to make him want to do that? And it's just something that I was, quite frankly, born with. My house growing up wasn't cluttered. My parents have always kept, a tidy house. Sometimes they've got more stuff than they need, but, they're working through that. But growing up, I never remember having to trip over things or have a difficult time trying to find things, because things were always where it was right and destined for things to be. So I never had this situation of not being able to find things. And when I go play with my cousins or friends, it was just absolute chaos. I'd go in there, I'm like, okay, I got to do something about this. So I probably should have gone into the same field, but I didn't. But it's one of those things where it just comes natural to me. And my better half, by no means is into clutter or anything like that, but she tends to be a little bit more free-spirited about where she leaves her keys or puts her jacket or anything like that. So I'm constantly like that butler behind. I think of I think it was Batman when Michael Keaton was in there, where the butler Alfred would go behind him and grab a glass as he's setting down. It was I just kind of feel like that
standing
sometimes.
there with the keys in your hand,
Exactly.
by the front door.
Well, yeah, I mean, every morning, I probably too much information, but I get everything by the door ready for her, because she tends to leave after I do, and it's like, here's everything staged. It's just there, and she comments on it when I'm out of town, and
Right.
she'll say, I know when you're not here because I'm looking for my keys and there's no tea made, and I'm like, where is he? And it's just one of those little habits that I do. But yeah, I'm really curious to jump into those 7 emotional blocks, because when I looked at them, they make a ton of sense. And I agree with you. People hold on to things because, well, this is an heirloom, or I'm gonna lose that weight, or all
Or it
of
might
those.
be worth something. It's, it's listed for sale on eBay for $4,000. And you're like,
Well,
yes, but how many are listed? And when's the last time one sold at that price?
exactly. And if they are selling at that, then you should probably unload it, unless it's something that you absolutely positively cannot live without. And I think that's one of those things when, if you really look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what can't I live without other than our physical body, and at least an article of clothing to make sure that we're properly dressed. There's not much we actually need. But yeah, so let's jump into those 7 blocks.
Sure, absolutely. And I want to just start by saying this to your listeners, that I am not a minimalist, and I am not advocating, I'm not one of those people that's like, you need to only have 30 items in your house, and, you only need to have 4 items of clothes. What I want for people is that I want like I said, their house to run smoothly. I want them to feel less stress. So understand that this is a continuum. What's right for some people may not be right for others. But if this is ringing true to you, it means something's not working. If you're like, oh yeah, I haven't cooked dinner in a while because the kitchen counters are so cluttered, or I haven't eaten dinner at my dining room table because it's piled with paper. That's the issue that we're talking about. So I want people to know that, because a lot of people are like, you're going to make me throw all my stuff away. And I'm like, that's not the conversation that we're having. But to dive right in, these are fantastic. Like, clutter block number 1 is my stuff keeps me stuck in the past. So this is clothes we can't fit into anymore, trophies from bygone days of playing Little League, lots of photos of, who you used to be, your kids' artwork everywhere or piled up in drawers, and your kids have graduated from college. And this is about telling us, this is a daily reminder of telling us that our best days are behind us. Like, look, life goes on. For most of us, we're not going to fit into what we wore in high school. Bodies change. That's okay. But keeping those clothes hanging in your closet on a daily basis, when you look at them, you're like, I'm not that person anymore. I'm a terrible person now. So this clutter block is really about getting you unstuck.
Yeah, that's really important. And, I've periodically, every few months, will go through my closet, and I've had my own, weight loss journey over the last year, where I've lost, a decent amount of weight. So a lot of my shirts just were too big, so I donated them. And you look at the closet and you go, wow, I have no clothes. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to address that. And so I did, but it was one of those things where, I had bought some shirts, and of course, as with anything, you buy some clothes and you're like, this, I like this. I like how it feels and fits and all this stuff. And then there's some that's okay. And then you realize, wait a minute, I'm not wearing this very often. So why
do you
don't
know
I
that
just
we
do that?
wear, Michael, we wear 20% of our clothes 80% of the time.
Oh, I believe that. I believe
Yeah.
that. I believe
So
that.
when you're confronted with that, you're like, oh, this is 80% of volume that I'm just not wearing. I always tell people, think about when you go travel, right? You pack a suitcase and go to New York for the week or go visit your relatives. You dress fine. You look adorable. You wear cute clothes and you're happy every day. You're not thinking like, oh, I really wish I had 6 more pairs of pants. So we really, clothes especially, we just need so little.
Yeah, I've purged so many of my clothes and even personal items too. And it helps when you live in a condo, because storage space isn't anywhere near what it would be if you were in a house with a full basement, or I know I don't know if this is still the case, but I know a few years ago, one of the largest growing industries in the United States was the storage industry.
Oh, no, it's still, we can segue into storage. I'm going to say this. Offsite storage is bad. I have been in hundreds of storage units, and there has never been an item that someone has paid for offsite storage that is worth more than they have paid to store it. There are one or two little reasons why you should have temporary offsite storage. You're remodeling, a few things, but there's no reason for it, because here's the thing. If it's in offsite storage, you're guaranteeing that you're not going to use it. You're not going to go and get it. And this is an exercise that my clients hate, but it's like the get real exercise where I'm like, I need you to add up what you've spent on offsite storage. And it's often in the tens of thousands of dollars. So I'm with you. It's like, if you just know offsite storage is bad. I'm sure public storage is going to come after me, but.
Well, they're not a sponsor of the show, and I wouldn't necessarily have them because it's not in alignment with, what is important to me. I've used, offline storage, but it was a temporary situation in between moves. It's like, okay, we're in, moving from one place. I knew I was only going to be at this particular location for a short period of time until we moved into the condo. And it's like, okay, and it's like, and there wasn't really room in that place there. So it's like, we'll get this. And then we moved it. And of course, I would say even after that, I'd say 75% of the stuff that was in the storage and we brought it here, I don't have now.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I don't need this anymore. It doesn't really fit with A, my lifestyle, B, the space. It's like, no,
I've helped clients with storage units that they've been buying things for the next house that they're going to get. And then they get the next house and they bring all the stuff from storage and they're like, oh, I don't like it in here, or it doesn't work in here. And they've paid to store it. So it's really one of those, it's very much one of my soapboxy things that I'm like, there's a couple good reasons, but other than that, there is nothing in that storage unit that you need. It's pretty intense. And did you know this? I don't know if this, I know you're up in Canada, and I'm sure that this statistic applies up there, but in the United States, only 25% of Americans can park their car in their garage.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, they park it outside, and then for those of us, especially in all of Canada, we're approaching the winter season, and nothing is more defeating than having to scrape off your car of snow and ice and everything else, especially when you have a garage that you wouldn't necessarily have to deal with that, at least first thing in the morning. It's tough enough for us to get up and get out the door and go on a commute to work. That's a big challenge for many people. But then toss in, several months out of the year where you're clearing off your car of snow and stuff, and you have a garage that you wouldn't have to deal with that. But you have too much stuff in there that if it's in your garage, you're not using it.
Right. And that, Michael, that's a great, like that line that you just drew. That's such a great way to illustrate the cost of your clutter, right? People always say to me, like, why should I declutter? Why do I be decluttered? And I'm like, because it saves you time and it saves you money. So if you, up in Canada, winter comes, if you could park your car in your garage and you didn't have to spend the 20 minutes in the morning in the freezing cold de-icing your car, that's 20 minutes you bought yourself to go to the gym or watch your favorite show or have a conversation with your partner. Like, that's time that you can actually buy back. And that's time that your clutter, your stuff, is eating up.
And from a financial standpoint too, if you have so much clutter that you need to live in a home instead of an apartment, for example, the challenge is, especially in areas where real estate prices are crazy, and Toronto is definitely one of those, you are talking thousands of dollars a month or a year for mortgage payments because you need to have that extra bedroom to store all the stuff that you don't use.
Another exercise I do with my clients, especially the ones who have a bedroom or two that has just become a storage depot, the kids have gone away to college or, something, they've just filled it up. I'm like, okay, I know in Los Angeles, I think right now, real estate's like about 500 something a square foot. I'm like, okay, so that's let's figure out the square footage of that room. That's what you're paying to store that stuff. There's a real cost to it. And, that rolls really nicely into, we're going to go to the bottom of the list, but clutter block number 7, which is what I call the stuff I keep paying for. So this is, offsite storage units, rooms you can't use. This is, I paid really good money for this. I've never used it. I don't know if I ever will, but I can't let it go because I paid good money for it. I joke all the time that the first thing I say when I'm in a client's house and they have a giant treadmill in their bedroom, I'm like, do you use this every day? And they're like, I do, to hang my clothes on,
Exactly.
So that's a cost. It's like, okay, and unfortunately or fortunately, that's the moment where I'm like, you got to put your big girl pants on. You got to accept that you made a bad financial mistake and stop repeating it. Let it go. Maybe you can sell it on Craigslist, maybe not. Maybe you can donate it, but stop making the bad financial decision over and over again.
Yeah, I see that all the time. And when I tell people and work with them on whatever they're dealing with stress or burnout, I tell them, don't be judgmental to yourself because of a decision that you made in the past. It's done. You can decide, however, does this item make sense to have in your life? If you're not using it, then it doesn't. Donate it or sell it, whatever works out. But getting rid of something that you're not using gives you that time and the space to be able to do the things that you truly want to do and what's meaningful for you right now.
Absolutely. I was working with a client recently and her mother had passed out of state. And so she had everything shipped and was paying for a storage unit to store her mother's stuff. And her mother had been a bit of a hoarder, really a hoarder, and so it was full of just nothing that this woman was ever going to use or need. And she said, I just, I feel so bad. My mom spent such money on it and she was on a fixed income. And I said, just because your mom made that mistake, are you going to keep repeating it? Like, that's not your mistake to make. Maybe by letting go and freeing up this storage unit that you're paying for, you're breaking that cycle. And I think that we as a country have to get, and, I include we as the royal we, everybody, we need to get really real about what our stuff is costing us.
Yeah, well, I agree. And it's one of those things too where, and again, I think living in a condo, really hammers it home for me because anything that we consider, like, oh, we should buy that. The first thing is, okay, 1, where would we put it? Number 2, and this is a mindset that we both have, is okay, what's going to go when we bring this in?
Yep.
It's something comes in, something's got to go out. While we have open space and things like that, we don't have a desire to fill it up where we can't navigate around or where you have to walk sideways in order to get into a room. That's like, no, you don't want that. It's like, what makes sense for us to have? Does it serve a purpose? Is it going to make our lives easier? Is it going to give us time or enjoyment or entertainment? These are all deep questions to ask. And it's one of those things too. I know a lot of people, we use this exercise where, depending on how much an item is, if it's a big ticket item, for every, I think it's every $100, they say, okay, I'm going to wait a day for every $100 this thing is. So if it's, $2,000, I'm going to wait about this for 20 days, basically, to see if I truly want it. And oftentimes when they get to that point, they may even decide before that. It's like, no, I really don't need it.
One of the great thing I do with clients, and speaks exactly to this, is just the first thing, I'm like, stop saying I want that. I'm sorry, stop saying I need that. Start saying I want that. So you're like, oh, I really need a new pair of jeans. Do you? Because you have 12 pairs. Are you a rancher? Do you need a new pair of jeans? No, actually, I just want them. So get comfortable with saying that. I just want that. And that will also help, like, I actually don't really need it. I just want it. And then you wait a little bit of time and you're like, I actually don't even want it. I'd rather have the money.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That want and need thing is a big thing. I hear that all the time. And again, it's one of those things where oftentimes, and I know you see this with people, when they acquire something and they want to buy something, or they buy a lot, or potentially start flirting with becoming a hoarder, it's covering up something else. It's to address something else that they are not addressing. Like I know one of the emotional blocks you mentioned is, the fantasy stuff or fantasy life. It's, why is their life not where they want it to be? What's
Right.
going on there with that?
Or, also clutter block number 5, which is I'm not worth my good stuff. These are the people who don't use grandma's china and don't wear the clothes with the tags on it. And for me, that's always a self-worth issue. Like, no, use your nice china. You're worth it. Burn that fancy candle. Wear that nice blouse. Wear those good pair of shoes. Like, you're worth your good stuff. Because if not today, when? I mean, you and I discussed this, we're right in the middle of these terrible fires in California. And I'm a Californian born and raised, and it's just awful, and people are losing everything. And, I only hope that the stuff that they are heartbroken over losing, that they'd been using. Imagine if they had stuff tucked away and never used it, and then it was burned up. It's like, use your nice stuff. You're worth it. Believe in yourself.
Yeah, everybody says, well, we only use this for special occasions. It's like,
Every day is special.
No kidding. Yeah.
I really believe that every day is special. Like, you open your eyes and you got a day, it's just every day is special. I think that this idea that, life is mundane and we have to punish ourselves and just use it's like, no, set a nice table for dinner, burn a candle, it's every day is special. We're lucky to be here every day.
I completely agree. So, of these 7 emotional blocks, is there one you tend to see more often than not with people?
It's funny. Lately, I have been working. Clutter block number 6 is trapped with other people's stuff, and this is about stuff that people have inherited when people have passed away. And I'm working, a big part of my business is senior downsizing, helping seniors move from lifelong homes into smaller residences or retirement communities. And I also help a lot of people after someone has passed away, especially parents and the boomer generation. So I'm really seeing this one, that furniture, is being passed down. Someone's passed away and they're like, I already have a household furniture. Like, I got to get a storage unit to save my, my parents, pine furniture that I'm never going to use. This one I'm seeing a lot. Like, it was in my family for a long time, therefore I should keep it. And I'm like, no, you should keep it if you use it. So I'm really seeing the, trapped with other people's stuff a lot. And also clutter block number 2, my stuff tells me who I am, because that's really about shopping. That's my people who are buying to combat loneliness. I had a client say to me, she goes, how could I ever be lonely? I have 200 pairs of shoes. And, now shopping's so easy. You don't even have to put pants on. You can have something delivered in a day. So I'm really seeing the toll of online easy shopping.
Yeah, I see that a lot too. And it's literally, you can buy something in seconds and it's delivered to you, and you don't have to, much less, like I said, put on pants to be able to get it. You go out to the mailbox and grab it, and away you go, or it's right at your front door. And it definitely feeds into, those things. And the one thing about the inheriting heirlooms from your family that's been in your family for decades and all of that kind of good stuff, that's just going to continue because our population is aging. And
Absolutely.
in this area, and I know it's across the plane, that in less than 20 years, the population over age 65 is going to double, and over age 90 will triple. So when these people start to pass on, that's a lot of things to deal with. And
people are living longer, so the generations behind them are older, so they already have a house full of stuff. So they're, it used to be that, where people were passing away younger, and there was a younger generation that was just starting their life. And now, I'm starting to see, interestingly, I'm starting to see grandchildren that are like, my grandparents just passed. I have a house full of stuff. Like I can't take any of it. So, I think that it's twofold. Like, where does that stuff go? I think we need to really start to rethink the idea that I need everything new from Pottery Barn and get really back into reusing and upcycling and, what can we do to a piece of furniture to make it work in our house and so it doesn't end up in a landfill. And then I also have to think we have to start thinking about our own buying that, when I go, where does all this stuff go? When you throw something away, where's away?
Yeah, away is not too far from you in many cases, or it's shipped somewhere else and it just starts piling up and affects the air we breathe and the food we eat and everything else. So that that's things that people don't think about necessarily when they say, well, I don't need this IKEA dresser anymore. I'm just gonna throw it in the trash and it'll be gone. Well,
No,
it's not. It's not.
It won't be gone.
It's not gone. It's going somewhere else, and it's going to do whatever it's going to do. And it's, I'm
seeing
with you.
I'm seeing this great movement on Instagram. These young women, I think young men too. I'm just mostly noticing the young women, but that are making it really cool again to shop at thrift stores to buy used clothes, and really like there's they'll sort of see like. I've seen them take a fancy outfit out of a magazine and then recreate it out of the thrift store, and really proud. It feels like this idea of being thrifty is kind of coming back in vogue. For a long time, it was like having everything new was the way you went. And now there's this movement, this green movement of these young people like, no, it's cool to not buy something new. It's cool to recycle and upcycle. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. And it's just, I'm 100% behind it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I do too. And I think it helps a variety of different people, because a lot of those organizations, donate some of their proceeds to charity. And also, for those that, financially can't afford something new, they, will be able to have nice clothes and be able to, dress the way that they want to dress that makes them feel good.
And they're keeping it out of the landfill, they're keeping it out of the landfill. It's just such a win-win. It's really great. These young women are really inspiring. I'm like, look at you. You look adorable. I love that.
I know it's great that the younger generation is taking that back up, and it's going to benefit everybody involved. So
Fantastic.
Tracy, I've loved our conversation today. Where can people find out more about you and this awesome work that you're doing?
Absolutely. So the book is called Making Space Clutter-Free, the last book on decluttering you'll ever need. And it's available on Amazon. It's available Kindle. It's available audio, Barnes & Noble. It's very easy to find. And I'm, my kind of two favorite platforms for social media. I love Instagram. So I'm Tracy McCubbin over there. And then Facebook. This is Tracy McCubbin. That Facebook thing where you're like, can't you get the name the same? But those are both places. And then my website, Tracy McCubbin, McCubbin.com. You can take a quiz to find out what clutter block you have, which is really interesting to people. And there's lots of great content about how to recycle and reuse. And it's fun. It's a great community over there.
That's awesome. And I'll definitely have all that information in the show notes. So Tracy, thank you very much for your time. Also, thank you for doing what you do, because I think you are helping a lot of people, get through, this clutter thing, which has an impact on how they live and brings happiness and joy and fulfillment to people's lives once they, get under a better control of the stuff that they have and what they need to have. And I'm with you. I'm not a minimalist. A lot of people thought I was, but I'm like, no, I'm more of an essentialist. It's like, what do you need? What do you need?
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to borrow that, Michael.
I'm
an essentialist. That's fantastic.
By
I
all
love
means.
that.
Yeah. Greg McCown wrote a book called Essentialism. That's where I borrowed it from. So Greg, thank you for the book, by the way. So so awesome stuff, Tracy. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Michael.
Hey, it's Michael again. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. If you're like many people, you're dealing with some significant stress and possibly approaching burnout. I know how you feel. In 2009, my burnout led to a year of worst-case scenarios. I do not want that to happen to you. If you go to breakfastleadership.com, you can register for a free webinar on burnout prevention, as well as get as a free checklist to have successful mornings. Start off each day the right way. Again, that's at breakfastleadership.com. Also, since you are a loyal podcast listener, I'm asking you to like, rate, and review my podcast on iTunes. I look at all the reviews and appreciate your comments, and it helps other potential listeners discover the content I have on the show. I appreciate you, and thanks again for listening.